Oh my gosh, Julia. I'm so excited. I am like over the moon. Howdo, Disco citizens to you out there. I'm Teri Gamble.
I'm Julia Marchese.
Welcome to Horror X, a collaboration between the George A. Romero Foundation and our podcast, Horror Movie Survival Guide.
And Horror X explores the femmes who help make fright films fantasticorical and palavers with them about their experiences in film and horror.
Oh my gosh, our next guest is a playwright that has produced shows in London, England, one of our favorite places on the planet, Julia, and all over America. She's also the founder and co-producer of Punching LaBute, which I just like to say like that with a punch because he deserves it. A festival that strikes back at the sexism to raise money for charities that support femmes.
And additionally, she's a film and pop culture critic for various online magazines, including the Evergirl, Dread Central, and her own Medium page, of course. And we got, Horror Press going on. She created and co-hosts the podcast A Nightmare on Fierce Street and Blerdy Massacre.
Iconic podcast. I love it so much. Please welcome Sharai Bohannon to Horror X.
Hi, hello. I love this intro. I'm gonna steal it and use it for my ringtone.
Makes you feel fancy, right?
Right. I'll be like, this is who I am.
Correct. Just so people know too. So when you're out and about and people are like, wait, what? Like they hear the intro.
How did you two meet? I don't know how you two met.
The internet.
Okay.
That's where I got most of my friends in the horror space, because a lot of us met during the pandemic when I was losing my mind in Indiana at a job I shouldn't have taken. And I was like, I'm going to start doing podcasts. Where are the other Black horror content creators? And everybody so far that I interact with has been very cool and very nice and lovely. And it's been nice meeting people in person now that it's a little bit safer to go outside. Yeah.
Yeah. We did that, and we got to run into each other at Midsummer Scream. Iconically, I saw you at your live podcast experience.
When you came in, I almost wanted to stop the panel. I was like, we'll catch Teri after.
It was, I came in with the energy of I was going into some HBCU football game or something. I ran up to the stage from the back of the room. The place was packed in the podcast lounge, and y'all were ready to give it to us. And I'm so glad I got to hop in there for a bit.
Thank you again for coming. It really was what we needed, because I don't think a lot of the people, they know of us and they hear some of the shows. They just know one or the other or both, but they're just I got to be like this because I don't know what's going on. And you're like, no, we're having fun. I'm like, yes, we're having fun. We can make horror fun. We can make international horror specifically fun because it's wild. And we got some very fun recs. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, this is about to be a game. I was like, this is going to be on. This is going to be fun. And you all did not disappoint. It was the most wonderful part of Midsummer for me, at least. It was so cool.
Thank you.
So let's begin at the beginning. Let's take us back to your beginnings in horror.
Ooh, awesome. I was about 4 or 5 when I won the battle with my mom to start watching horror movies, because I was the oldest of the second group. My oldest brother is 11 years older than me. So now it makes sense they could watch horror movies, but at the time it felt like it was because I was a girl and I was not having it. And so I was just like, is it because I'm a girl? Is that why I can't watch them, Mom? Is it? And I finally wore her down. And the compromise was I could watch it, but I can't come crying to her if I have nightmares. And so I just didn't have nightmares. So I was having tea with Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers. I was like, I want Pumpkinhead merch. And I was that kid.
So you psychically trained yourself to not be disturbed by the things that you saw?
Exactly, because I am a Gemini and I will not be told what to do.
I love that so much. I was just at Spirit earlier watching a mom with a kid in stroller be like, look at Chucky. And I just started laughing so hard. So I feel like you had that same energy for yourself though.
Yes. I wanted Chucky. I couldn't even say freckles, so I would say fuckles. Because again, I was like not even in first grade watching Chucky cut people, and I'm just like, Chucky's got fuckles, and they would like bring me in so I could say that so they could laugh at me because that's how families raise kids in the Midwest. They're like, "What's speech path?" We just laugh at her, and I was like, "Why are people laughing at fuckles?"
Oh my God, it's so cute. I'm sorry. I can just see your sweet little baby face just not knowing what the heck is going on. So you were an early adopter of horror then. You fell in love so early. But you parlayed that into other aspects of your life, like writing and all that. When did you start writing? When did that begin for you?
I think I started writing even before I knew what words were. Because again, I just won't be told what to do. It's like, I want to tell stories and I'm just going to like scribble on this paper and then make something up when I tell you what it is. And hopefully I remember it so it sounds similar. And so I would do that, or I would like open a book I couldn't read and read it to my sister who was younger than me. So she didn't know what the story said either. And so I was just always storytelling, and I knew I wanted to grow up to be a writer and director. And at the time I thought actor, which is not my bag. I've learned that as I got older. But I
still feel like I want to see you in something. You're a force on stage. Like, I don't know. Don't count that out yet.
I mean, the few times I've had to do it were choices, and I'm happy that there's not a lot of video from those few times. But who knows? I'm more comfortable in front of a camera now and with people because I was homeschooled, so that was a journey getting used to just hearing my own voice.
Aha. Yeah. Okay. And so what made you gravitate towards plays?
My plays are usually like dark comedies, or they're like sci-fi, or they're horror, or I just cut somebody anyways, but it's a comedy. And so like my program did not know what to do with me for many reasons. But one of the notes I always got was tonal shifts. And I'm just like, tonal shifts are Mondays for me. I'm a Black woman. So like, do you have other notes? Yeah.
When they don't understand, when you're in a theater program or school or writing, I don't know what that's like. It is buck wild. It is the amount of stories. I think everyone has one. There's some sort of trauma of like how you were broken down or how no one understood what you were talking about. And yeah.
But what made you want to do plays instead of writing books or comics or films?
So originally it was going to be movies and books because ambition. And then like I was going to school for journalism, the first degree, because you always have to like find a major and you're like, that seems practical. I can make money and write, and I'll just like write my things on the side while I do journalism. And then I was like, I don't want to do journalism. Surprise, surprise. Things come full circle. But like at the time, I don't want to do journalism.
How did that happen?
Right? I don't want to do journalism. I'm going to get an English degree. And then I was like, I don't want to do English either. Novels are hard. And so I was working one of my mini side gigs in college, and there was a tour of The Lion King coming through town. And I already had beef with The Lion King because my little sister watched it so many times that I just could not. And I was never a Disney kid because, again, where was Freddie? Where was Michael? Like, the people are not being shanked. And so I was not here for The Little Mermaid. And those messages, what was it? My mother is probably tired of me being like, you're letting us watch The Little Mermaid and she gets her voice for a man. Is that feminism? Is it? Like, and so I'm working this tour because poor and in college, and I had to work it a few times because there were shifts. I needed money. And so I'm just sitting there reliving the trauma of listening to this so many times as a kid, but now it's live and it's pretty, but still I'm just like, ugh. But one of the assistant stage managers was really cute, and he would like dance with the hyenas at the doors that I would try to be on and rearrange myself to be on. And I was like, he's cute, but also what is he doing? I could do that. I could organize for other people. And so I went to get a BFA in technical theater to become a stage manager. Again, summer child, thinking I would just write my scripts on the side, not knowing the stage manager, your life is stage managing.
Your life is stage managing. Teri and I both grew up in theater. So like stage managing is the hardest job there possibly is. And they get absolutely no love for it. And yet everybody in the theater knows they're the one doing the actual work.
They're really the director when the director's done with the show. The director goes here, and then the stage manager has to maintain the show, take it on the road. They have to, literally anything that falls apart, it's on them. Like they're the end and the beginning. And also for the director, because they're like, time, hello. Like they're the one keeping that train on the freaking track. Yeah.
And I was a workaholic, so I was very good at it once I figured out what I was doing.
Okay.
But when I got my BFA, I was like, I have to like go to get my master's now, or I'm not going to go back to school. I know me, I'm not going back to school if I take a break. And I was like, stage management is fun, but it's not giving me a lot of time to write. And so like my few classes where I did do my creative writing and my playwriting, I was like, oh. And also one of my friends, the one who hosts A Nightmare on First Street with me, directed one of my shorts in our little black box at my undergrad. And I was like, this is what it's like when people see your stuff live. You can make them cry. Oh my God, this is power.
It feels so good, right? It's so great.
There is no better feeling than people who are like, what is this? This is weird. And then they laugh all of a sudden with you. Or they're just like, ah, like hearing drunk girls scream at like random like pubs and small venues where my shorts are going up. I'm just like, yeah, she gets me. So all of that, and also that first little like quarter life crisis was like, if you're going for a master's, get it in writing. If you're going to do it in writing, get it in playwriting, because you already have this theater background. And I made the choice of going to Texas Tech. I don't recommend that school, but I did get my MFA. I did learn to network, and I made friends that made some of it worth it.
That's what it's for. I think I met with one of my grad school MFA alums today for brunch, and she and I said basically the same thing. We were like, yep, we survived, like, and here we are. And that's what we get to do. Let's press on.
Right.
Yeah.
I call them my expensive friends because debt. But also we can call couch whenever we're in somebody's town. We're just like, hey, expensive friend, do you still have a couch? Do you still have a guest room? Because you're an adult. Like
Correct. Absolutely correct. Or they married good, you know? So like
listen, I'm rooting for all the marriages that end with me getting a guest room. Keep those alive.
Honestly and truly, I'm grateful for my friends in New York. They have a guest room, and it's because they're married. You know, it's beautiful, and I'm with gratitude constantly. I never book a hotel room when I'm in the city. It's great.
My other co-host is always under threat of me just swooping in. I'm just like, Zero, there's a premiere in New York. She's like, there's always a premiere in New York. I'm like, yeah, but also is anybody else on your couch? Is anybody else in your guest room? So I'm trying to get it. Like.
She's so great. There, you guys, you got that whole crew, anyway, it was so great. Oh my gosh. You all have not too much fun. You have the right amount of fun on your guys' show. I'm not going to say it's too much, because I'm going to say it's what we always need. I just always feel filled up and just feel like joyous after. So I'm just really, really happy. Can you talk about some of your like favorite and fondest memories of being in this horror industry, or something that was like really joyous for you?
Oh, wow. I think that every year I just kind of accidentally do something that I didn't think I could do, because again, I'm driven by spite. So I'm like, I'm not supposed to be there. I'm going there. Is that something not feasible?
Contrarian to the core. They're like, you can't do that?
Hardcore.
Oh, watch me.
It says, don't push the button. Julia, going to push the button.
Right. You tell me not to do something, I have to do it. That's just my brain. It's like, that's all I want to do now. I can't go to London. I have to go every year now. And
yes,
so
please.
like, yeah. And so like every festival, every con that's new for me is a good time, because you get to meet other people that you've been friends with on the internet for like 4 years now. And you're just like, you're this height. Oh my God, you're also the same person you are online. And I love that, because a lot of people aren't.
So people look at you like you're an alien. I'm like, literally, we've been DMing for years, and you act like I am like, it's baffling. But also, like, I get some people have, social anxiety and stuff. I too have social anxiety, but that's why I met you on the internet. Like, it's like,
listen, we've been vetting each other, and you did not do the homework. I did. And you were surprised. You're like, she says what? Oh my God. I'm like, girl, this is nothing. This is me at PG-13. There's only been 3 F-bombs. Like, I enjoy. But I think the one that I'm probably the proudest of is I managed to go to London last year as a business trip, like actual business trip, because London Film Fest is real and they have genre movies there. So I was like, hey, Mary Beth, my editor-in-chief, who's also a Gemini, at Just Central. I was like, hey, Mary Beth, they have horror movies over there. Do you maybe want some of these reviews? And she was like, yeah, thanks. And also, congrats on getting in. I'm like, thank you. We're doing it again next year.
that is your annual trip. Like, then now you go to London forever.
Right.
So what part of London speaks to you? Where do you stay when you go?
Oh my God. I I've been really fortunate to find places near Soho or like near, I always call it Red Lion Square, but it's something else. But like there's Red Lion things about. There's even a pub called Red Lion. And I just cannot learn them in a neighborhood. But I usually stay in one of those two because those are the areas I'm used to getting lost in. So I'm not really lost. Where I can like cheat my phone and be like, I don't need a travel pass today. I've been lost here before.
Yeah. No,
It's a big circle. London's a big circle. Yeah,
it is. We're big, huge. So Teri and I met on the plane studying to go to England, and we love London more than anything. I'm a Whitechapel girl myself. That's my favorite area of the city, but it's also a dodgy area of the city. So you go, well. I also live in Hollywood,
same.
so it's like same, right?
Right? Like, I'm always telling people that there's probably a London neighborhood that's like a cleaner version of anything you're going to find in LA or New York. Like,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah. Which is why I love it.
Correct.
It's both of those coasts in one place, and it's my kind of weather usually. Last year was warm, and I was like, this is not my London. Global warming needs to stop. She's ruining my one time a year I get to come out here.
Isn't it bad? It's so weird. I was talking to a friend even up in Oregon today who's like 90 degrees there. I was like, no. Why is it disgusting up there? But I was like, oh yeah, you get a little bit of sun in August and then it's going to rain the rest of the year. Don't worry. But
True.
London,
was the film festival different than the ones that you've attended here in the US?
Oh my God. So this one is definitely one of those where it's more organized, which again, I'm coming from a stage management background. I love some organization. Mm-hmm. And so like you show up, they have the lines or the cues because they're very cute.
They love a cue.
I love, like, go stand in the queue, lady. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I am a lady. And so I did that and I got my little chips. And like, there's just also, because of the organization, there's usually like a few showings. So like London Film Fest will open the festival up 2 weeks before the real fest to let the press do press screenings during the day when a lot of people can't go anyways. Yeah. And so you're getting in if you show up. That's getting
great.
In if you show up. Yes.
So we should go there is what you're saying. It sounds like we need to go next year, Julia. Maybe we need to plan this.
Oh, well. Seriously, any excuse to be in London, any excuse, I will take it.
Julia and I are always angling. That would be great. We should apply for those press.
We're England angling.
Yeah,
Anglophile angling.
I can kind of move there. I'm gonna figure it out.
I have been trying to devise that plan for quite some time, and I've not figured it out.
Since we left, Julia was actually like, I think, on a chat earlier today with one of our friends from England, like doing a teleparty. Like we're still very close with our friends over there, and I love that. So
no. Like we'll figure it out. We're gonna find a way to start a business or something, so we have to stay there.
Yes, but wouldn't you agree that the horror community is a very welcoming community? But I think women and femmes in horror are the most of the welcoming out of anybody.
Yes. The women, the femmes, and like a lot of the non-cis white dudes. Because like we have a few that are very welcoming and they get it or they want to try to get it, and we can work with that. But we still have like this overarching belief that it's for only Kenny and only Kenny knows horror and Kenny's opinions are right. And I'm just like, well, I'm here today, Kenny, to tell you you're wrong. We're going to fight. And so that's a lot of what I do online. Because I'll write something that's like super simple, like the black guy dies first, but not in these 5 movies. And then somebody wants to be like, this isn't true. It's woke propaganda. And I'm just like, have you never watched a horror movie? This could not be the first time you're hearing this, is it, Kenny? So yeah,
like it's a trope for a reason, right? You know what I mean, though. Like exactly. I think it's so fascinating. I was bored today, so I was on the internet, and dealing with some people, and it was just making me laugh. I was like, why are you taking this so seriously? These people were just like fighting for things, and I was like, you know what? Nothing. It's nothing for me. But you guys make it a thing. It is wild. Can you talk about? I'm going to bring in some incendiary things that you've said about Patrick Wilson, because I feel like Julia and you. I wanted to just ask about this because on your live show, you all talked about The Conjuring because you told people to stop watching it because there's so many other movies, and you gave a whole list on Letterboxd that you're going to have to send us the list, and I will put it. I think I still have the link, but I'll make sure to link it in notes for this episode so people can go and look at it and check out that amazing list of international horror. Can you please talk about that, please?
Yes. The Conjuring, don't get me wrong, Patrick is very, very hot. I've tried to conjure him since I probably before The Conjuring. I've been trying to conjure him his whole career.
Oklahoma for me, I was like, who's this man singing Curly, singing theater as a theater bae and as a music theater bitch, like so hot.
That man is he's fire. And like Vera's also cute and cool, but like I love looking at Patrick, even when he's doing Elvis impersonations and I can't get on board with it. I'm just like, you know what? Everybody has to pay rent. You don't write the script. I'm gonna support you anyways. But like overall franchise, I love James Wan, and he always does the first movie and leaves because he knows franchises are diminishing returns. Unfortunately, we keep going, but like, how many of the 5th, 6th, 7th movies are better than the first?
None.
None.
Not a one.
Listen,
not a one.
But they keep doing it. It's like there's a reason that you don't get like Romeo and Juliet Part 13. Like, you know, like you gotta sign the first movie. But like The Conjuring, it has the first 2 Conjuring movies by themselves, amazing. The second Annabelle, amazing. The rest of that franchise, I'm very happy so many people I love are getting paid, but also it is the longest running scam. It's a little bit of propaganda. It's a little bit
Christian superhero stuff.
Yeah. And I was homeschooled. So I'm just like, no, I don't like this. This is feeling wrong for the bad reasons. There's other franchises and there's other like countries who do similar hauntings and things that make sense. Like, why watch The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, when his house is right there?
Correct.
Yeah. We did an episode for Horror Movie Survival Guide on that. It was cool.
So good.
Yeah.
Like just gorgeous. And the performances are just, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it again, just because it's so chilling and truly scary, I think, for me. Because I was like, I remember watching, we did The Conjuring. Was that our 350th episode, Julia?
We only did The Conjuring when we were on Clark Wolf.
We did Insidious. That's what it was. We did Insidious.
Insidious was 350. We were like, ooh.
It was one of the shortest episodes we've ever done, because I always say it's like our episodes either go really long when the movie's really bad or really good. And when it's like medium, our episodes tend to be a little shorter because there's not a lot to say, good or bad. You're just like, wow. I was like, that thing looks like Darth Maul, their monster. And every time he comes on screen, I'm just like, Darth Maul's here again. Okay, like there's nothing that scares me about that movie like at all. And I just was like, wow, am I a hard bitch now at episode 350?
Thank you though, because I also don't understand Insidious. I think that it is probably my least favorite of any James Wan I've seen. And I didn't do any of his DC stuff because I'm not going to. But his horror movies, he's usually better than that. And so I'm just like, I need to know in this writing situation, who decided what? And also it's all PG-13, which is also hard to do with demons because like you need demons to go hard. You need them to like demon things. And they can't do that for the children. And so it's just like, oh, I'm behind you. And I'm just like, that's funny.
But there's poltergeist out there. Do you know what I mean? Though it's like there are movies that like that went harder, that were for kids or whatever, that Gremlins.
But we do know that you do have a deep love for Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise. So can we maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yes, he was one of my first imaginary friends because, again, I was watching Halloween as a child. And I figured out that Freddy was not somebody I should be friends with as a kid. So, and also he wouldn't let me speak. So I was like, I'm going to try Mikey. And so Mikey would sit there with me as I drank tea as a child, and he would let me actually speak. I really like that. I think that that's part of the reason men are ruined for me, because like once one lets you speak and he listens to you, like the rest are trash. Like,
truly, I'm
as a Michael Myers super fan, though, I have a question for you, because there's something about the first movie that I always ask if people are super into it, see if they can give me insight, because it baffles me, is the right before he kills PJ Souls, when he dresses in the sheet with the glasses. Why does Michael do that? Because he's not a playful killer in that way. He doesn't really do stuff like that before or after that. It's just that one, and I'm so confused by it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
My theory is he's very curious about these people. He's very curious about humans in general. I always say, as his best defender and would have been lawyer, that like he killed his first sister because he wanted to know what goes on inside of people. And things got blown out of proportion because, you know, a kid just stabbed somebody. So people are going to panic. They're not going to be like, why'd you do that, Mikey? And they sent him away to Dr. Loomis, who was not a good doctor. Like, we love Dr. Loomis, but like, I need to see who gave him his certificates because the way he was practicing. And so I
Horror
think
movie doctors, though, like, I mean, just in general, though.
they were just printing those off on like Publisher or Word, just being like, "You're a doctor, you're a doctor."
Well, they are practicing, and honestly, medical technology in the last 100 years has, gone through some things. Like when any movie that has old medical stuff. So anyway, that's my bid for him, just being like, hey, it was a different time.
Yeah, I don't know if I personally would be out trying to shoot my patients to be like, that never happened. But again, I was not in their sessions. But as Mikey's biggest defender, I think he's just curious. So he's like, oh, he was wearing this. He wears glasses. What are glasses? I'm gonna put these on and see how these feel. Oh, this is what it's like to be a person. It's like the kids are like, I'm a big people now. And their pants
like wearing your mom's high heels, like that kind of deal.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on a mission. I gotta finish killing her." Like,
awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
I always love to hear everybody's rationales for that unrational moment,
that outlier. That's a pretty good like thought, though. Even from the beginning of him, like why he wants to chop up his sis, like that makes sense.
I really do think that. I mean, we got away from the mission because, again, franchises. But I really do think at the end of the day, he was just a kid who was having a moment. And he was like, oh, this is what happens when you stab people. I made a mistake. And then it was too late to take it back.
How do you feel about the controversial Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
I don't like it. I do love some of the merch that comes out of it, which I know is really hypocritical. Because I'm
agree.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that bag, and people are gonna be like that. No.
I feel the same way. I've seen that bag as well. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, because my feeling is you can't start an anthology series in your third film. You could do it in your second film. You can't do it in your third film and then be like, just kidding, and go back to the normal one. I'm like, what is that? You can't do that.
I love that they fucked it up. I love that they fucked it up because I'm Queen of Chaos.
Yeah, it was the first time I was like, I might have a question for John Carpenter, and I don't know what to do about it because he's John Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any horror movies that still scare you?
I have a hard time being scared. Like, again, I've been watching stuff since I was 4 or 5, and I thought they were all fun and games until I saw the first When a Stranger Calls. That first 23 minutes, I was like, scary movies are supposed to be scary? Nobody told me that. Oh, damn, I made a mistake. But I'm gonna.
When did you see that? When did you see that? How old were you?
Before I could read, so before 6, 5. Because again,
you saw that as a child, watching that happening and being like, this could happen to my babysitter, and like,
yeah, because again, like they were just like, well, she's watching anything, might as well. So I was like, Freddie, Jason, LOL, and I was like, oh no, this is not the same. This is not Pumpkinhead. This is not my friend. I don't want this, but I'm gonna watch it a few more times.
Okay. So because it was realistic, it seemed scarier to you?
I think that, and it was just different because again, I think as a kid of the 90s, a lot of stuff we were getting from from the 80s and the 70s and before. And so it was like big monsters and B movies. And so to have something that's closer to like a thriller, and it's more of like, this is what humans can do to each other as opposed to this man in your dreams or whatever. It's like, oh no, the calls coming from inside the house. You're not safe in your house. That's not okay. Like, yeah.
They brought it home for real. And like, yeah, that movie holds up too. That's still scary.
I still put it on when I'm like having so much anxiety that I need to like be settled. Because you can't do anything else when she's being harassed from inside the house. You're just like, I gotta watch this again. Oh no.
What do you think? What do you think it is about horror that intrigues you?
I think it's the fact that, like, in 90 minutes for most movies, because some of them are getting long, and I am looking at these filmmakers, I'm like, do you need 3 hours? Do you? But I think that it's the knowing that in 90 minutes it's over. Because, like, whatever's going on in your day or in your world and in your head, that's indefinite sometimes. But, like, you can sit here and be like, you're going to get chased by a clown for 90 minutes, and we're going to have a good time. Now I'm back to my world. Thank you for the intermission.
Yeah. It is a little break. It is a little break and a little cathartic, I think, too. When we're dealing with some real funky, fun things outside in the world right now, and just, the anxiety. And I'm just like, okay, please show me someone getting like, torn apart. I love it. Please.
You're like, somebody's having a worse day than I am. Then there you
like,
are.
The worst day of their life often in these movies. So it's like, yep.
Right? Like, if I'm going through it, I want to see the autopsy of Jane Doe, because by the time I'm done, I don't remember what I was worried about. Like,
that movie is incredible and terrifying. Yes.
We haven't covered it yet for the podcast.
No, we haven't.
it was the last movie that scared me, and it scared me in broad daylight, which was even harder to do because you're like, the sun is out, and it's like, the sun, and like, oh, stop, no, don't do that, don't do that.
That's that old timey song. It's like got that. Yes, it's so great.
Yeah, and technically, she's a woman monster, which we don't have a lot of. She didn't do a whole lot, but that's even more powerful because, like as Beyonce said, you know, you that bitch when you cause her the conversation, and she caused a lot of conversation.
constantly. It's like, my name is on your lips. I'm everywhere. Can't deny me. You cannot deny her.
Cannot.
So if you had to recommend a horror film to someone who had never seen one at all before, which one would you say to start with?
Okay. Usually I ask a bunch of questions of the person, but for this game, I'm gonna, because I'm like, do you like comedies? Do you like this?
Do you want to curate something for us? Because I would love that. If you want, if you do the thing that you do, I'm down.
Yeah. Like, do you swing towards comedies, thrillers, slashers?
I'm more horror comedy. Julia is more. What are you more?
I don't know. Hardcore, sexual, psychosexuals, hopefully.
Listen, I'm going to send you right to the French Extremities, which is not my bag. But I've seen a few. Like, I have not finished Irreversible.
Not going to watch that one. I know that one. Nope.
Yeah. I made it like 15, 20 minutes in. Like, no, guys, I can't. Because, like, it's spinning and there's a lot of naked men talking about a lot of things that are awful and doing a lot of things that are awful. And I was like, I'm getting dizzy and I'm disgusted. I got to leave. Like,
oh, I can't be dizzy. That kills me. Like, anything that's found footage is really hard for me when it's like wobbly.
Yeah,
I'm too old for it now.
I could not, which is why I avoided found footage for the longest time. And now I'm finding some that are good. I'm like, oh man, I was wrong about y'all. But I would send you there. I would definitely send you there. I would also probably say, have you seen High Tension?
Yeah,
which yeah. So I would send you down those kind of movies, those kind of lanes. Right. There's some erotic thrillers that I could also throw in, but like for the most part, that's going to be the best mashup for you. Whereas horror comedies, which I just realized I like this decade, in part because of Radio Silence and Josh Rubin, I have a ton of those from them. But also, I would say the new Slumber Party Massacre, the one came out in 2021. Yes, it does what the first one wanted to do, but again, there was that push and pull between the writer and the director of if it's funny or if it's serious, and that's why we get this weird mashup, which we love. Strange. Yeah. But like we're like, this one gets to do it, and like there's like a cabin full of himbos. We're playing with so many things, and we have a black lead, and it's like trauma, and also it's really funny and goofy. I would also recommend When the Screaming Starts.
Ooh, I don't know When the Screaming Starts. What's that?
It's an indie horror comedy about a filmmaker who decides to follow an aspiring serial killer. And the aspiring serial killer is putting together his family of serial killers. And of course, things go off the rails. It sounds fun.
Yeah. Like trying to be like a Manson family kind of shit. That's great.
Yes. And it's funny. It's like What We Do in the Shadows, the series, but like with serial killers who are not good at it and are trying to figure out how to be good at it. And it's
I love it when a killer's bad at it. That's really great. It's like when they're trying to succeed and they're just, gorgeous.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing. Like seeing people fail. Like
and if there was a killer or a type of killer in a horror movie that you feel like would be your downfall, which kind would it be? Because we cute boy killers, my downfall. You give me like a Norman Bates type and I'm done for. Like I will fall for that so hard.
Oh, listen, like if Pedro Pascal wanted to stab me, I would take it. But like
any way for him to stab me, anyway, I will take any of it. Right? Any way he wants to.
Penetration, you say? Yes, please.
Done. Sold. What side? I always say my downfall would be the people or the creatures that give gifts and wishes, because I'm nosy and I like gifts. I'm not gonna say no to a gift. And so
you're going to open the cursed object. So if I bring you something pretty and shiny, you're like, okay.
Right. No, Peanut's going to be like, you can't fix this puzzle box he brought you. I'm like, you don't tell me what I can't do. And it's a gift. Oh,
no. That was Teri's first horror movie that we watched together was Hellraiser.
It's so good. It's so good.
Like when we knew I was gonna take over and start hosting with Julia, she's like, "Okay, you have to actually watch these," because I was producing the show when we started, and so I was not a horror head. I was just the producer who hung out with the horror bitches, and I was so happy to hang out with y'all. But then I was like, "Okay," and I started laughing, and Julia's like, "Oh, you're gonna be fine," because like
No, because it's
you
it's
just
all
wept.
funny.
I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
What did y'all
But
think about
that's like the Jesus trauma in my life, just like happening right there. I was like, wow, this is hilarious.
the Jesus trauma is a whole thing that I think there should be a podcast on that. Why we started that podcast of horror people?
We
just
should do
coming
that
to be
one
like,
together. Oh,
listen,
yeah.
I know like 9 different people who were in different forms of church camps and Jesus camps and in the
Yep,
basement
I
for
worked at
Y2K.
camp.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, and I was
Yep.
homeschooled, so like,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my best friends from my church, she was homeschooled and we used to hang out all the time. And it's just, yep. We actually just met up recently at around Comic-Con and just went over a lot of this. We were like, yep,
Right?
you too? Okay, great. And Julia, I love because she was not raised in a religious atmosphere. So half the stuff that's like religious in a movie, she's like got nothing on it. And I'm like, oh, Julia, this whole
Lucky.
story is actually the book of blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh. I'm like, yeah.
But I feel okay about that. I feel good about that I don't
You're
know. I'm
lucky.
like, I'm fine to learn it through a horror movie. That's cool. Like, Demon Knight taught me that there were demons at the crucifixion. Didn't know that. Thanks, Demon Knight. I appreciate that.
And I was like, yeah, that's in the Bible, Julia. She's like, what? I was like, yeah.
Everybody really was there. So yeah. No, you're so lucky though, because like there's still times like I watched The Exorcist for the first time like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, this is fine. It's got vibes, and then she took the crucifix to her vag, and I was like, oh no, I'm still too homeschooled for that. Oh no,
It pops up in weird ways, right? Like I didn't see that till probably a few years ago either, because it was one of those movies I was like, but also like my family is Seventh-day Adventist, and so like they believe that the Catholic Church is the devil anyway. So I was like, okay, not like, okay.
Well, I do film programming as well, and I for Halloween at the Somerville Theater in Boston. And last year I programmed The Exorcist, and people still walked out, and they walked out at that part. And that's when people stood up and went, nope, and we're out. And it happens quite early in the film.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, 2023, people are still walking out of the movie.
It's not worth walking out over for me. But again, I have started the healing journey, and I guess a lot of people have not. I was just like, oh no. And then I was like, okay, we're back. I just had to like be like for a minute. I was like, oh no, that's the abuse. We're good.
You got
we're
to
back.
process that. But that's that, like, I don't know. What a grateful, I don't know. I'm grateful for these moments like that to get to process those things. So there's definitely some movies I was like, oh, like I was scared of this because like, the devil. And now I'm like, oh, sweet. He's so cute. Like, I love the devil.
Right? So many of them are cool. Like Elizabeth Hurley was the devil in Bedazzled, and she wore amazing outfits.
Hot devil.
Yeah. I mean,
we were just watching Forbidden Zone the other day, and like, I was like,
Danny
dance
Elfman
around,
as Satan.
devil.
Yep. We saw Richard Elfman as Satan and Bloody Bridget. We're like, we'll take Elfman Satan. I'm into that.
Sing and dance. Sing and dance.
Listen,
I mean, Tim Curry is Satan. I mean, I know he's darkness technically, but
he's Satan.
He could be my Satan.
Mine too.
Listen, I remember watching Clue and Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I was like, this man is versatile, and I need him in my life. I did not understand as a child. He was like 40, 50 years older than me. I was like, he's got skills and games. And I was like, I'm about it.
We all had awakenings around him and around those particular films as well. Like, just such a hot. And The Worst Witch for us as well. Me and Julia are like obsessed. That was our movie. I have it on DVD. It's like I love Halloween
deliciousness. Do you still dress up for Halloween?
I have started doing it again. And I like to task myself with finding like a low effort, cheap costume. And so like the first year I did it, I was like in Utah for a film festival in like 2021, my first film festival in person. And I was like, you know what? Hotels have irons, and this new Halloween just came out. I'm just gonna be the Iron Lady real quick. So I did like picture and it went viral, and people were like, girl, that's funny. And like, it still gets shared. Like my friends will still be like, every once in a while, be like, remember this? And I'm just like, it's gonna go viral again. No. I love doing last minute things that cost almost $0 here. So.
I'm about that too. I love like high concept, low effort. I always say is like what wins. Because I remember like you go to the costume contest, which I've also like judged before too, and I'm like, someone's gonna walk up. I did that one time. I literally when La La Land came out, I had like a little romper, like this little in a little sailor hat
Yes.
and like a little bob that I put on. And I went to like my local gay bar that I love, Akbar, shout out. I run karaoke there the first Wednesday of the month. And I showed up for the costume contest. And there are people like, I mean, because it's a gay bar too, people were like dragged out and like amazing. I got second place.
Because the creativity.
Spent $0. And I said, I am an extra from La La Land that didn't make it because there weren't enough. They didn't want any more Black people or whatever. And like,
but it's
the name of the concept. But I did like all these high kicks and I was like, I got it. I can do it though. And like, sold it so hard. And people were pissed because there's literally someone who had made like a volcano that like functioned. That I beat. I was like, that's what happens. Don't work so hard.
Right. Work smarter, not harder. I last year at New York Comic Con, I pulled out like a plastic glove and I asked Kat from Girl That's Scary for a Sharpie, and I wrote weird shit on my hand and was like, "Talk to me." And people were like, "No, you didn't," and I was like, "Yeah." And it was a plastic glove. It was like a cleaning glove, see through, and I was like,
That's hilarious. That's brilliant, though. Did people grab your hand all night though too, and just be like, "Ah"?
It was New York Comic Con. People were stressed because again the strikes were happening, so they were just like, "That's funny," and I was like, "No, it's more than funny."
Like this is brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, we hate it when people don't get it.
Can you talk to us about some of your favorite creators and collaborators that you've worked with as well?
Ooh, collaborators that I've worked with. I mean, obviously, Girl That's Scary is always doing the damn things. They are definitely one of the podcasts I found when I first started horror podcasting, and we were lucky to get them on our show, talk about Lovecraft Country, and then I was very lucky that they were like, she wants to be friends or stalk us. We're not sure. Let's see if that's safer. I'm like, yeah, it is. I also love working with Zero, obviously, because I had her on Nightmare on Fear Street, and I was like, what do you mean you don't have a podcast? I assumed you had one I didn't know about, and you're gonna tell me about it. It's like, listening, and you don't have one. Let's have a podcast.
That makes no sense. So brilliant, so funny, so insightful.
It was a crime. I was like, you really don't have a podcast, is what you're telling me. You have this whole setup. You got mics, you got computers, you have that voice, and you're just like guessing on people's stuff for
wasted.
Wasted.
Well, will you tell us about your podcast real quick? Will you break down?
How did you started it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so like I had her on my other podcast, and I was like, no, she's really cool because we've been online friends, as we all know, the online friends. Like, oh yeah, online friends, da 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 da. But that was like our first like conversation in real time, talking about Sugar Hill because it's an underrated gem of a movie, and Marky Bay deserves so much more. It should have been the beginning of a whole universe, but whatever.
Correct.
And right.
Correct.
So we were talking about how we would reboot it and other things because that's where the podcast rambles. And then I was like, so like, are you gonna push your podcast? And she's like, I don't have a podcast. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have a podcast? And so like I sat on that for a couple of days and I was like, do you want a podcast? And she had this title she was sitting on, not knowing what she's gonna do with it, called Blerdy Massacre. And so like,
great title. Like I was like, when I saw that, I was like, that's also what drew me to it. I was like, oh, there's my people. It's so good.
It tells you everything you know about us because like we're cute and we're chaotic and we're blurs. And so like we love the genre, but also we're going to ask the real questions. We're going to have the real conversations. We're going to get into that. I love this movie, but also this Black character was given nothing to work with. I love this movie, but there were no Black people and it's 2023. What are we doing? Like, and so these are conversations that we wish more people were having.
It's a choice. It's a real choice.
Yes. And people, specifically critics, and part of the reason I'm a Rotten Tomatoes critic is because, again, spite. I was like, I don't like how you're treating Tales from the Hood. I know that was around since before I could read, but still, you should give it more respect. Bones is Black Giallo. So I'm going to become a critic. I'm going to give it out tomatoes. And I know it doesn't mean anything in the great scheme of things, but also I'm going to feel better about the world. And that's why I'm out here giving tomatoes to people who didn't get them or do deserve them, but nobody's watching their work because a lot of times people don't have time for our work
or they don't get it. They don't get it. And when they do get to it, that's the thing that kills me sometimes. I'm just like, wow, you went to that movie and you really didn't, because you really could not put yourself in another space. Do you know what I mean? To even see it.
Right.
You're not adept at doing that. Yeah.
the way people get very surface when it comes to not their shared experience, they're just like, oh, it's a movie about a shark. I'm like, actually, no, it's about a movie about incarceration and Black men. Did you not read the literature at least if you don't want to pay attention to the movie because anybody could told you that. And that's a thing that sent me to hell because when I lived in Chicago, I was a theater critic because again, I was coming from theater, moved into criticism, and I would be there writing for places that could barely afford to pay if they could afford to pay. Sometimes it was just the tickets to the Steppenwolf or the Goodman, which again, we live in Chicago and you're fresh out of grad school. That's cool.
Those are great places. Yeah.
Right. Especially as a playwright. I'm like, this is what you're putting on. Good to know. But I would see these critics who were your older white men who'd been holding these spaces forever, or that one lady who finally got herself removed because she just could not stop being racist. And finally they were like, you know what? It's 2018. We might have to fire her finally. And we were all like, yes, you should. And they would see these plays, and don't get me wrong, not all of them are great, but nothing's ever all great. But they would be dealing with real topics, and they would just be like, no, the Black people I know will be happy to see the cops come. And it's like, you know, no Black people, just say that.
You have the one Black family in your neighborhood that you allow just to make you feel better that you had one in your neighborhood. That's what too.
Yes.
It's wild. Absolutely wild.
It's wild. It's just wild. And the way that the microaggressions were just thrown around in these reviews, so cavalier, I was just like, miss me. And so like,
I think I need to become a critic listening to you talk right now. Now I'm going to have to.
You should. You'd be
do
a great
another
critic.
thing. Thank you.
You would. Because like, first off, you are an actor and you're a producer and you do all these other things. And so you can speak better than a lot of us can about how these things could not be the way they are. Because we're like, we assume it's the writer or director, but it could be execs or it could be production.
It's a lot. It's the layers that come down, you know? So yeah.
So I think you'd be a really great critic. Plus, like, you would also just be honest. And we need more people being honest because a lot of people act like these studios are looking for their blogs and are living on their every word. Like, they're not. They're not. Like, I've been doing this 4 years and I'm just now getting to meet people who know who I am, who make stuff I watch. Like, I got to like meet Bria Grant, which is why I was really happy that she was on the show. And I was like, she's talking to me like I'm a real person. I don't know what to do with this.
She's so great. I love her so much. And she was so fun to work with. I just got to do a movie that she wrote last month and it was so fun. And Julia was there. Julia's on set too. And she's in it. And like, I'm so excited. She's just a cool person. And she's one of those people too that's so down to earth. Again, women and femmes in horror who are just like, you're like, wow, you are about the work and like critical and like ready to dive in.
Yeah. No, like the last time I saw Bria, it was because we met at Overlook Film Fest and we were introduced by a mutual friend. And I saw her around a couple of times because Overlook is one of my favorite film festivals. Everybody please go. But like not before I get my pass because I got to go back. But like we interacted a few times and like the last time I saw her, it was like the night of the closing night party, I think. And I had to go back to the hotel because my sister was also in New Orleans and I hadn't really seen her because I'm a festival monster. So I was like, people are there, movies are there, bye, have fun. And so I was like, I gotta go say hi to my sister. And she was going to the closing night party. She's like, do you want to ride my Uber? I'm calling an Uber. I'm not waiting on this bus. And I was like, I want to get in the Uber with Bria Grant, but also my sister is here. And so I got to go say hi to her. And I'm so sad right now. But it's fine. We're Instagram friends. I can bother for other stuff later in life.
Oh, and talk to us a little bit about your other podcast, Nightmare on Fear Street.
Yes, A Nightmare on Fear Street was my pandemic baby, which a lot of us had. There's no shame in that, especially if we're still doing it and it still sparks joy. And basically, I was in Indiana at a job I should not have taken. But again, the world was ending and they were like, do you want a job? I was like, yes. So I moved to Bloomington, Indiana for a job.
Breaking Away, one of my favorite movies, set, that's all I can say about Bloomington.
That's all anybody should say about Bloomington.
Yep. I bet.
Listen, I moved there for a job that didn't really exist anymore, but they weren't sure how it was going to happen because they were transitioning theater to online. So they were just going to like figure that out. And I was still be able to teach a class. And so like the students who I met virtually were lovely. Some of my friends that I made there were cool, but it was also Bloomington, Indiana. And so I definitely quit within the first year because again, it was a mistake. But before I quit, I was talking to my friend Trent, because again, it's the pandemic. We're all on Zoom. We're all catching up. We're like, who are you now? What's going on now? And we're like gossiping about people. And I was like, we're just talking about horror movies like we did in undergrad because like that's what we did. We would get drunk on my couch, watch horror movies, and then go to his rehearsal or come back from rehearsal. You're talking about couch and watch our movies. I'm like, we're doing that virtually. What if we just do it on Zoom? Because everything's on Zoom. I had just seen the Comic-Con with like Nate Beaver and like Don Mancini and like everybody, Brian Fuller and all of them. And I was like, Comic-Con just happened on Zoom. So anything can happen on Zoom. Let's just do it and see what happens. And we just turned 4 this month of August.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's wild that people who listen to any of my shows, because I'll be out in the wild at a con or festival and I'm like, Sharai, I listened to your show. I'm like, thank you. And like, I'm like, but I wonder which one.
That's like Julia. Julia's got like 3 podcasts and we do this show. So she out there. Same thing. People stopped us. It was great. We were like, wait, what?
Yeah. I'm always flabbergasted because I feel like we send it out into the void and you have no way of knowing who's listening. You just go, okay, thank you.
Into the ether.
You get some percentages and you're like, that's cool. 1% of the people are from this place. But 1% of what? What?
Yeah. Don't know.
Analytics.
Well, this show, Horror X, is about women and femmes in horror, but it is brought to you by the George A. Romero Foundation. So we do have to ask you about George Romero and his impact on your life and horror.
So how has George impacted your life, Sharai? Tell us.
I mean, aside from showing us that zombies are really cool, like really cool. Because again, as a kid, you're like zombies, whatever. And then you see Night of the Living Dead, you're like zombies. Aside from that, I think that it was just, I didn't even understand, I don't think, when I was a youth, how seeing Ben be the lead of a zombie movie and being like, George just kind of being like, Black people can be in movies. Some of them can actually act. What if we let them be leads? Because again, in the 90s, we still were not getting a lot of Black leads. Still not. We were still sidekicks, still Are You Okay Girl? Brandy could go through a door and a wall and a window, but she's only the second final girl because you need Julie James brain Nass to be there for some reason. And I'm just like, no, who's here for Julie? And so I
was there for Brandy for sure. Yeah.
That's why I showed up. Brandy and Freddie Prinze, because he's still hot, let's be honest. But like
oh no, he knows. I bother him about it on the internet once or twice a year. I pull up that picture I have when I met him at I Know What You Did Last Summer at UCLA at a screening, and it's adorable. I'll send it to you if you don't remember, but I will absolutely. It's really funny, and he's always so cute about it because I do tag him, and he's always very kind.
I would tag him too. Like I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but if I bump into him and Sarah Michelle, I'm gonna be like, oh.
I have, and I did, and I wanted to like. I think she hated me for that reason, though, because I would always be like,
right. I'm just like,
because I would see them around town. They used to film Buffy at UCLA, so I used to see her a lot when I was in undergrad. So yeah.
But yeah, Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, right, are just incredible. You have Dwayne Johnson and Ken Foray, just these incredible performances.
Yeah. And he was also, again, as a kid, I don't think I understood on all the levels it was impacting me, but it was also just cool to see a filmmaker not be afraid to be political, because all horror that's good, decent is political. It should all be saying something. It should all be representing something, whether that's what you know about this filmmaker after watching their movie. Or whether it's something about
learn a lot sometimes by what's not said sometimes as well.
Listen, I'm just like, so you just did that, and it's not like, okay, no commentary on that. Cool notes. And so it was just cool to see a filmmaker who, again, I'm coming to this from the 90s kid, just being like, zombies, mall, ooh. But I think that it was definitely putting something in the back of my head to be like, no, you can have these things. You can have the politics. You can have the Black people. You can have women doing things. It doesn't have to be the shit you're seeing over and over and over. And I think that is definitely part of the reason I have so many podcasts, because I have too many podcasts. I have too many. And I'm writing
and we're going to start another one. It's going to be great.
Right? It'll be fine. It'll be great. We all have time for this. But it's why I think I approach criticism the way I do, and it's why I approach podcasting the way I do, by asking who's not there, why aren't they there, why shouldn't they be there, and it's because of George A. Romero just being like, I'm gonna do it. What are they gonna do? Take my movie from me? I'm gonna
make it myself in Pittsburgh anyway. Yeah, I'm like doing my thing, like whatever, like do it. And
do it. Yeah, and that's another thing I probably learned from him, is just do it. Because again, like, he did not have a bunch of funding and a bunch of friends helping with those movies. He was an indie filmmaker. So yeah, just
so much respect, right? So much respect.
Yeah. Like,
and just seeming chill about it, right? Like making giant waves and then just being like, yep, like there isn't a big like speech about it or anything. It's just like I did it and you guys can fight about it, but like it's here it is in your face. So good.
I wish I had the energy to not fight about it, but it depends on my mood. Because sometimes I'm just like, I'm clearing my schedule, hold my calls, hold my deadlines. I have to send this man to hell.
I'm sure he had some fight about it too, because I know it's like was challenging even towards, later on when he was trying to do like finishing, his other works and doing his later movies. It was still a challenge to the very end, for him to get that stuff produced. So I think that's the thing that I find so fascinating. I think we've talked about that before, Julia, of just like, it doesn't matter what level you are as a filmmaker, there's still that fight of like you wanting to get this thing made in the way that you want and making sure that you can get it done. By any means necessary, y'all. By any means necessary. So, Sharai, this has been absolutely delightful. Like I knew it would be. I'm just like, my whole heart is full. I'm just like, now I want to become a critic. There's more things happening in this life. We're just going to do it because George said, just do it. Just make the thing, right? So
it's not easy.
Just so easy. It's going to be hard. I know. So why don't you plug all of your podcasts and all the things? Let us know where people can find you and all that kind of good stuff.
Awesome. You can find me as a person in the world at Miss Sharai. There's 3 S's in there, and I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can find Blerdy Massacre at Blerdy Massacre on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We come out every Tuesday with a new episode. We just dropped our Strange Darling episode, and next Tuesday we're going back for another round of This Watch Guide Will Get You Canceled, where we talk about things that we wish we could stop watching, but we can't, and why we can't stop watching them.
Ooh, are we allowed to see what you're talking about? What next week?
Yeah, no, we talk about a few things because again, it's been a wild year. So like The Boys, certain movies that are coming out, certain shows we've loved forever. We've played this game before, and I don't know if this version is worse or better. I don't. I want to listen to them side by side and be like, oh yeah, no, this is the year we're really canceled. And A Nightmare on Fear Street is Nightmare Fierce on Twitter, A Nightmare on Fear Street on Instagram. That comes out every Monday. We just dropped Bloody Birthday with our friend Yutaka, who has so many podcasts as well, because we all have too many podcasts now, thanks to 2020. And I believe Monday we're dropping our Intruder episode because we're having an 80s slasher moment.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love 80s slashers. I don't know why, but I do.
That's all right. We love them as well. I mean, that is all good stuff.
Listen, so much stuff is there. I didn't know Tom Hanks' first movie was an 80s slasher, and it's the one that all of our favorites steal from. And I feel like I was uneducated my whole life till I had to watch this movie this year, and I was like, this was the missing piece. It's
fun when you see the source, right? It's fun when you're like, oh, this is literally what everyone has been copying. I love those moments where it all comes together and you're like, oh, no wonder all the filmmakers are obsessed with this particular thing. Yes. Love it.
It was so nice to meet you. What a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. And for all the laughs.
Thank you. This is amazing.
You're freaking amazing. We appreciate you so much. So thank you again for joining us. You can listen to our podcast, Horror Movie Survival Guide, anywhere you can like to listen to a podcast. And you can hear Julia take deep dive into different horror film. And he'll hear us every week. We deep dive, dissect, and see how you can survive and become the final girl.
And then I also have 2 other podcasts because, as we said, never too many. You can listen to me talk.
Never too much.
Yes, Luba.
You can listen to me talk about Stephen King on the Losers Club and all about Alejandro Jodorowsky on Jodorowsky.
Wow. Also check out the Georgia Romero Foundation, folks, which is dedicated to restoring Romero's work, including seldom seen masterpieces from early in his career, as well as keeping an archive and helping the next generation of young filmmakers. Thank you to everyone who watched, all few of you out there. I love you. All the people are going to watch this later that are on the YouTube because that's what happens. Please feel free to reach out to Julia or myself on the internets. We love to interact with all of you.
And I just wanted to shout out one more time to the George A. Romero Foundation for thank you. They are helping young filmmakers, including myself, in making my Stephen King film, I Know What You Need. So I always like to give my credit to them because they did.
You have to. And it's on Arrow Player now. People can watch it and stream it. So I think that's very cool. It's one of the last dollar babies that got made with Stephen King's Dollar Baby program. So like iconic. It screened at Comic-Con this year. So I got to see it all big and it was very cool. So thank you again. Yeah.
We will see you next time. So thank you everybody for watching and hoping your days and nights are fantastic oracle.
Fantastic.